for also a democratic discourse. And in World Radio 2026, UNESCO's material highlights radio and artificial intelligence, and providing the topic framing related to the role of AI in radio. And let's find out more about this topic with our honorable guest, Mr. Andrew Davis, the Director of Radio ASEAN Broadcasting Union. Hello, Andrew. How are you today?
Good morning, and good morning to all the listeners of VOI and RRE, and happy World Radio Day.
Happy World Radio Day also, Mr. Andrew. And so, Mr. Andrew, without any further ado, I would like to ask you the first question of today's interview. And what is the trend in radio right now, Mr. Andrew?
Well, there's some interesting trends in radio. Radio is alive and well. Some people have predicted radio's death, but I can tell you on World Radio Day that radio is not dying. Radio is very strong and has a great future. One of the things that has changed is that we have gone from one system, radio only, to an audio ecosystem where we've got radio, we've got podcasts, we've got audiobooks, we've got other forms of audio. And what we're seeing is that listening for radio globally is very strong. But what we are seeing is that gradually, year over year, we are seeing a decline in people listening to radio gradually. And what we're also seeing is that, generally speaking, older audiences are listening to radio, generally, and younger audiences are engaging with podcasts and audiobooks and social media and those other kinds of things. But we are seeing that radio is still remains as relevant as ever, particularly in countries where there are vast distances like Indonesia or the Pacific, where radio's reach and coverage is amazing.
Okay, and so one of the most important discussion today is actually AI. So we know that AI is coming to everywhere, I think, not just into the social media, but also in radio as well. And how can radio and media industry specifically use this AI ethically? Is there like steps that we should not do as a media on how we use AI?
Yes, it's a great question because AI is impacting all parts of our lives in different ways, and radio is no different to that. So the ABU, the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, we've developed what we call 4 AI principles to help our members address and deal with the rise of AI, but also develop their own policies and frameworks, because we think it's very important that our members are equipped with the information they need. And the 4 principles are about data security and sustainability, so ensuring that people think about those things in the case of RRE or other broadcasters. But AI plays an important role with diversity and inclusion. It doesn't exclude certain parts of society or certain communities because of the use of AI. We also think it's very important to have an ethical and transparent and accountable approach to AI. So in other words, if you are using AI in an audience-facing capacity, so on a broadcast like radio, it's very important, we think, that you disclose that to your audiences so they know what is human and what is not. And the final thing is about human oversight and intervention. So the importance of humans still being involved in the process of decision-making about what is put to air and what is not, because AI is a tool that can be used to help output or production or creativity, but it shouldn't replace human creativity or human judgment. And those are the very important principles that we think are important for all broadcasters to think about when it comes to using AI and radio and media.
I see. That is really interesting because some of the media and sometimes the media itself starting to use AI in changing the presenters of the event itself. So since media is replacing human presenters with AI, how do you feel about this? And to what extent does actually AI need to be put behind humans as well?
Yeah, it's a great question because we've seen that what we're seeing is in many broadcasters around the world where they're seeing the use of what's called AI DJs. So people who are they're using voice to text technology and voice cloning. And there's some good examples in Malaysia where I'm speaking to you from, which is the headquarters of the ABU. A company called Media Prima developed an AI DJ 2 years ago, and they are using that transparently, I have to say. They're disclosing that as part of their commercial music network. We've seen KBS Korea, the Korean broadcasting system. They are using generative AI to create an entire radio program, partly to raise the conversation about the relationship between AI and humans. So we're seeing that being used, but in most cases, and those two examples, they're very, very transparent about the use of AI and AI DJs, and it's playing a role for them. In other cases, there have been some controversies in countries like Australia, where I am from originally, where a commercial company was caught out not disclosing that they were using an AI DJ on one of their stations, and that was some controversy around that. So that's a practice I would not encourage. But I think to your broader question about the role of those AI DJs, I think that people relate to people. One of the great strengths of radio is the people getting used to their favourite radio presenters and their personalities and what they bring to the radio and to their styles. So I don't think AI DJs are going to replace human presenters, because we want that human relationship and that human connection. Where I think AI, could play a role is in certain parts of the day with certain programs, maybe an hour or two, which is what we're seeing with the use of AI DJs, and also perhaps with shorter information, perhaps the weather. AI voices could be used to read the weather, things like that, where there's less personality, there's less connection and less warmth required. But we're all still in a period of experimentation. So I think the next few years we're going to see more results from that.
I see. Interesting, because just as you mentioned, AI can be used for sharing information, not like a heartfelt emotion between the viewers, the listeners, and also the DJs, but mainly used for something like the weather or maybe the traffic, as you might say. And so, in your view, what should the future radio hosts or DJs should improve in, so that they are staying relevant to this event in the shaping of AI and the future of radio itself? And what does the radio DJ needs to improve effectively to stay relevant in this industry?
That's a good question. I don't think DJs are going to be out of fashion anytime soon, which is encouraging. But I also think that it's about remaining relevant and in touch with your audiences. I think that's the most important thing. We know one of the strengths of radio is the immediacy, the connection radio hosts have with their audiences, and that if you ask your audience to a question, they will respond straight away, and you can read those messages out, or you can put their voices to air. And I think that strength, that human-to-human connection through the radio, is going to remain as important as ever. I think it's really also about DJs bringing themselves and their personalities and their curiosity and their engagement and their energy, because we know that people relate to that. So I think those human qualities are not going to go away, and I think DJs should bring the best of themselves every day to what they're doing, and I think that is still a really healthy sign for radio.
Okay, now moving on back to the misconception of people. I'm really interested, since we are talking about this. What is the biggest misconception of that people and probably can cooperate with AI and have the use of this AI, especially for the media sector? Is there sometimes maybe people think that, I think we should use AI even though we shouldn't have used AI in in our mindset?
Yes, I think it's a good question. I think the evidence so far is that AI is most helpful at the moment when it comes to certain areas of radio and audio. And there are 5 themes, I would say, where AI is we're seeing stations around the world using AI. One is audio enhancements. That's basically using AI tools to help improve the sound quality of an interview, take away some background noise from traffic, that kind of thing. We're also seeing the use of text-based editing, so that is people loading interviews into systems and then editing the audio as if they're editing a Word document or a text document. I mentioned voice cloning and text-to-speech with AI DJs. That is a trend. We're also seeing video clips being used, because radio is increasingly visual with cameras in studios and people wanting to watch their favourite radio programs or podcasts. So we're seeing AI being used to help with the editing process. And the final thing is content repurposing. So that is basically, if you were to use AI, you could basically load an interview into an AI system, and then it could essentially reproduce a potential blog post or potential social media posts from one interview. So those are the sort of 5 areas. But I would say all the evidence also so far is that AI is being used mostly to help menial or regular tasks with media production. It's not replacing human creativity or judgment, and I don't think it will anytime soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, for your time here in VOI Talk and your interesting insights on how is AI in media itself. And so, VOI listener, thank you so much for accompanying me in this special interview in VOI Talk. And as we mark the World Radio Day 2026, today's discussions remind us, even though artificial intelligence is keeping up with us, but they cannot replace our creativity. And although the true strength of radio still lies in the human heart itself. And so thank you so much, VOI listener. My name is Ray, and thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, for your time here in VOI Talk. And always stay tuned with us in Voice of Indonesia for more interesting interviews like this. Only on Voice of Indonesia, from Indonesia to the world.
Voice of Indonesia.
Tumbak is one of the villages located